Sales is always going to be one of those things that people overlook, people underestimate, and in the end, they're going to dance around it. And what I mean by that is this: sales and the capacity of it, whether through our economy or an individual looking at it from a career, is what moves products, services, the world, commerce, right? But at the end of the day, it's always going to be one of the highest paid careers, jobs, and actions out there, right? Putting aside worldwide fame, celebrity status, high level athlete, right? Which typically will get people the most amount of money. Sales is always going to be either at that level or right underneath it. And you can just look at deals and things that are happening, right? But more than anything, look at the current state of the world right now and like marketing as an example, where we use these platforms like YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all that, and we put content out, right? Well, ultimately, I look at my industry, right? I've been in sales for 12, 13 years now myself, but I'm also in real estate, right? I still run a nationwide real estate team and I do a lot. You know, I have a coaching program, I have a ton of stuff. It's one thing to get attention on these platforms, right? But what ultimately allows somebody to go from these platforms to becoming a big brand, to, again, becoming somebody who gets a lot of students for the coaching program, the real estate agent who gets a ton of leads and converts them, or basically somebody who turns it into a viable income source or creates commerce and transactions from this. Well, that middleman there and the missing link for 99.9% of people is sales. How do we know this? Well, I know tons of people that I've met over the years who have huge followings, men and women, on Instagram, you know, YouTube and all that, and they don't make any money, or they make way less money than people would think. I know people who have 500,000, a million followers on these platforms, and they can't rub two pennies together because they don't know anything about sales. Sales, people think sales is just, oh, you know, buy this and that. Well, no. Sales is sending an email with the right title that will get people to actually click. And then the right writing and video and imagery and colors to influence somebody to actually read it in its entirety and then take that action of clicking that button. Sales is knowing how to respond to people when they inquire on your website or through a text message that will get them to actually reply or get them to pick up the phone and call you. Sales is understanding when you make a post how to funnel people to a website or get them to take any kind of action. All of that is sales. Influencing people into you being designated in their mind as the top dog in a category. Well, they'll go to you for information or to buy or whatever it is. After having my platforms and everything shunned and like having to start this new YouTube channel and all that, I'm still able to make multiple six figures online with very little viewership. And that's not including my other income sources, because I know how to sell. It's not because I have muscles or maybe people think I look good or I'm tall or any of that shit. It's because I know how to sell. Now, the fundamental axiom underneath that is communication. But let's talk sales. And this is why sales is always going to be so important. Because if you learn this stuff and you learn how to sell, you're going to be able to make money. You're going to be able to navigate this crazy economy and world that we're in. And you'll always have that security, which is what people are looking for right now more than anything. Sales and your ability in it, especially at a high level, equals security. Job security, career security, financial security. Even if things temporarily got bad for me, where for 6 months or a year, I lost everything, right? I had to move into like a 1-bedroom apartment or studio and just barely scrape by and kind of start over. I know my ability to sell is going to get me right back to where I need to be within a year or two, like this. I've taken some major L's the last year or two, and sales has allowed me to bounce right back and get things going immediately. So I really want you to look at it from the proper perspective. And now that I've set that foundation for you, one of the things that people make a mistake in initially with sales is we all will approach sales and sales industries and careers from a position of what we lack, what's missing, which in of itself isn't bad. You do want to work on your weaknesses. Like if you know, hey, if I'm dealing with a customer who's aggressive or loud or a fast talker, I struggle with that. That's fine. you have trouble with the personality type, the driver, the person who's like me, boom, 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 boom. Hey, get to the point. It throws you off. Fair enough. You want to work on that weakness. Absolutely. I'm not saying we don't do that. However, one thing that's severely missed is a lot of people, first, are not aware of, and number two, they do not identify what they already innately, naturally bring to the table that is an advantage in the sales and communication world. And regardless of what you may think, every single person has some sort of advantage. An example I always give is my old friend John Hines, right? Shout out to him. I've interviewed him on my old YouTube channel. I'll do a new updated one soon here on this one. That man, tall, right? You know, about my height, 6'2", 6'3", strong, masculine dude. But for whatever reason, he had this aura of being like this big teddy bear where people just, they would open up to him in ways that I had to really develop skills to get people to open up to me that way. And I told him, I was like, dude, that is one of your natural abilities. You may not be as polished as me and as skilled from a sales technique standpoint, right? You can develop that, but you naturally, people just trust you. You have that aura. You have this likability aura to you that's just, I mean, it's unbelievable. So with that said, right, I notice a lot of people never pay attention to that. So what I wanted to do, interrupting the video very quickly, I created recently a quiz that will find your archetype and then give you some free stuff from a psychological and sales standpoint, like questions and stuff to help you. So I put a link in the description. It's the top link, the free sales quiz. It's totally free. Check it out. If you can't find it for whatever reason, leave a comment and comment sales, and I'll link it to you directly in the comment section. All right. But that's going to help you with this because it's going to identify your archetype and then give you material and things that you can use to sell based on your archetype to up your game. All right. So we need to work on this aspect of not just working on the weakness, but developing the strengths that we innately already have. And a lot of people miss that. So what you need to do, and this is an exercise that I want to give you real quick. A lot of people can list what's wrong with them and what they're missing. But a lot of people, if I have them do the same exercise on the opposite end, like what are your strengths and what do you really bring to the table that could benefit in communication and sales, they have a lot of issues. Because again, everybody has something, even if you don't have a lot. But the fact that you could easily and readily and quickly identify your issues, but you can't even identify your strengths, is a major, major problem. And that's going to hold you back. Why? Because that spills over into every area of our life. That's what plants seeds of doubt. That's what gets you to stop going after what you want. That's what gets you to hesitate, question yourself, and not really go after it. How many people watching this video are like, well, Bryan, I'd love to do what you do, but I'm shy, I'm an introvert, I'm blah, blah, blah. And you'll list all this SHIT and diseases of the mind. Even if you have that, can you get over it? Can you conquer it? Well, if you believe that you can't, you won't. But see, if we have, even at the baseline level, the inability to know what our strengths are, wow, we are so disconnected with ourselves. It's no wonder that we can't even use 5% of our potential in any area, let alone sales and communication, because we view ourselves as less than. Low self-esteem, low confidence. How could you enter the world of entrepreneurship or sales that's daunting and new and uncharted territory for most people with that type of mindset and worldview and, you know, self-esteem and self-image and expect to do well? It just doesn't make any sense, right? So that's why it's so important that you start to make this shift and first at least become aware of and identify, okay, what are the strengths so you can start enhancing them? Take that quiz, take that stuff, and it's going to help you. When you do that, you'll also be added to my email list, and then you'll have access to a bunch of free stuff that I give away all the time. And then if you want more training and help, I can help you down the road. Just let us know, right? That's a big piece of it. The other part is a lot of individuals who get into sales, they don't realize, and I believe that this is due to many of their backgrounds, meaning what they did and what they came from in their previous career before getting into sales. Like, I'm an ex-professional athlete, so I've always been competitive and I wanted to be the best. So the transition to sales, although it was difficult for me and unknown, I knew I would be successful just because of my mentality. But for a lot of people who have never competed, never done sports or all that kind of stuff, they don't know what it's like to day in, day out, obsess about something and then dedicate themselves every single day to get better at it. So I'm bringing that up because when you get into sales, it's much more layered than you think. Like that's one of the first comments I get when somebody joins my training. They're like, holy hell, like I didn't know there was so much to this and how layered it is and how nuanced it is. Well, it is, right? But the point I'm making here is that daily dedication and dosage that you're going to have to put into it is something that you're going to have to understand and accept when you open up Pandora's box of sales and communication. Meaning, this is something I'm not just going to do like, hey, I'm going to show up to work and that's it. No, no, no. You need to read about it, learn about it, train in it, drill it, work on it, obsess about it, right? Every single day. It's like a muscle that you refine and you build every day. Boom, 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 boom. And then eventually you get really good at it. But it's going to take that dedication of an all-star athlete or that Kobe or Michael Jordan mentality to get there. If you want to be the best of the best. If you're looking for what I mentioned in the beginning, perpetual and forever job security, income security, right? All that stuff. Because you need to. Why? Because all that's happened over the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and this has always happened. As technology in the world evolves, the bar naturally gets raised, meaning for you to hit those numbers of making good money, you have to be better. You have to be evolving, growing, and getting better than that bar is being raised. So I look at my industry in real estate. All that the internet has done is it's forced the average agent to do better and be better. Now that's always been, again, my mantra, my dedication, and what I've brought to the game from the very beginning. So all these new companies and fads and lawsuits and all that hasn't affected my bottom line at all. Which is why whether 12 years ago or today, myself or anybody in my organization or my students can come into the business, the sales industry, and do well right away. Because our bar has always been up here and it's being raised. So as the industry and everything else is coming up, we're still ahead. That's all it's done. So somebody coming in can't come in half-stepping, minimum effort. Well, I'm going to try to skate by and look for the easy way out. That's not going to work. It might have worked okay to make you a little bit of money back in the day. But again, as that bar is being raised, you can't do that anymore. And people are shocked, right? Oh my God, this is a lot of work. Well, yeah, because simultaneously, we've seen sales, my industry, and many others get farther and farther away from exactly what I'm talking about in this video, which is nitty-gritty communication, real sales, belly-to-belly, presentations, influence, persuasion, and the very thing that fuels this industry. Now it's all about getting attention and being a social media star instead of being a professional. And I'm going to make a separate video about how disappointed I am about my industry right now. The main one, which is real estate, right? It's disappointing. But I'm seeing that all over the place. There's this chase for social acceptance and online popularity more so than being a consummate professional and having skills. I don't care if 100 people know me or 1 billion people know me. I'm great at what I do and I can sell. And because I can sell, I know I'm always going to have students. I'm always going to have customers. I'm always going to be able to generate income and make money, which then will allow me to give back more and accomplish a lot of the things that I want to accomplish. But you have to understand that and get back to the basics. It's not about the fancy lights and the creating, like, look, I built up as an example, right? I built up a platform on YouTube, my original channel of 200,000 subscribers, 50,000 on Instagram. My original Facebook account before I got kicked off had 5,000 friends and like 30,000 followers of my page. All of that was built in originally from 2013, 14 till 2020 before I got censored and deplatformed and all that and had to start over like this. And that was built organically. Why? Because of communication. I did it with the phone. I didn't have a mic for years. I think I got to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube without even having lights or a mic or anything. Why? Because people would listen when I would speak. Now, is that just sales? No, but what's underneath sales? Communication. Sales is a branch of communication. If you can communicate, if you can get people to listen and hold their attention, you can then sell and take that to whatever you want. Because even if we say and we agree that attention is currency because you want to get followers and build your brand, well, how do I hook them? It's not the editing of the video or the quality of the audio and, it has to be 8K, 4K. No, it's the presenter. You could put me in a tin can. I could have nothing in the background, but when I speak, people listen. This is why as I made that new YouTube channel, immediately it started growing. I'm already halfway to being monetized in like a month or a little bit more on this new channel. Getting, 5, 10, 15, 20 subscribers a day. All I had to do was make a new channel. But I knew that I'm going to grow because when I speak, people listen. And it's not because I'm special. I just developed the skill set, which is why my students keep coming back and doing more and more. And I'm growing. But you have access to this too. But you got to take that mentality that I told you, the Kobe and Michael Jordan mentality. I'm going to obsess and work on this every day. Because even if I say the word obsess, many of you will be like, oh, obsessed. Society has poisoned your mind. If you want to be great at anything, you have to obsess. You have to be, by someone else, an average person's definition, you have to be crazy if you want to be great at communication or sales or anything. Because the amount of time and dedication to put into it, especially in the beginning when you suck, is going to be astronomically high. If you're not willing to do that, how could you be that much better than everybody else? You'll admire Kobe and Michael Jordan and these all-star athletes, but do you know how much time they put in the gym and getting shots up and working on their game? It is insane. You'll admire them, but then you won't put in that same work yourself when you want that level of success in something. Now, maybe you don't want to be the Kobe or Michael Jordan, fair enough. But you got to put in a lot of work. And it has to destroy the average person's amount of work. If the average person puts in 5 hours a week, you got to be putting in 25, 30, 50 hours a week in that area that they would put 5 hours a week if you want to be that good up at the top. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time here. But again, when it comes to sales, it's going from 1 to 10, 10 meaning you're a grandmaster. I don't even think I'm a grandmaster yet, right? I'm working towards that every day. Getting 1 to 6 or 1 to 7 doesn't take that long. But as you start going from 7 to 7.5, 7.5 to 8, that's what starts taking, 1 to 7 maybe took you 6 months or a year. 7 to 7.5 might take you another 6 months. And then another 6 months or a year to go from 7.5 to 8. And then, right? So we start looking at a little bump when you're already good to becoming really, really good takes longer than it took from being a nobody to good. Because that's how this game is. That's why as you get closer and closer and you get better and you get closer to the top, it takes more education, more immersion, right? More dedication, more everything. But a lot of people don't see it that way. They get a little bit of success or improvement, they take their foot off the gas, which is what we're seeing right now. If you didn't know when you're watching this video, right? My sales branch in the industry is real estate. 71% of agents last year didn't sell one house. If you sold, I think if you sold 11 to 20 homes in a year, you're in the top 2%. So basically all my team members, most of my students are already in that top 2%. Some are brand new, some have been in the business for a long time. So that means the vast majority, 98%, aren't even selling one property a month, which in most markets, you're not even going to be able to keep the lights on. So they have jobs, part-time jobs, and all that other stuff. So the vast majority of my specific branch in my industry is not doing very well. And these same people won't even put in a valiant effort. When you look at them, they're not. Because that's one of the first things that I implement with people on my team or around me is we're regimented, we're like military, we follow the schedule, we do this, and you're going to put in the effort because even if you don't have the talent, I can develop that in you, but you got to be dedicated and put in the effort. Then you can learn. That's the beauty of this industry as I wrap this video up. You could be anyone from anywhere, speaking any language, man, woman, religion, race, ethnicity, doesn't matter. Because when I came into the sales game, people laughed at me. You're not a sales guy. That's not you, blah, blah, blah. And look at me now. Now those people are messaging me in awe, like, wow, I would have never expected that you did that. That's right. But I knew I would. I knew I would. And unlike professional sports and all that, where maybe you weren't tall enough or you didn't have enough raw talent in communication and sales, anybody can learn this stuff. You could come in with every disadvantage and work your way to the top if you're fully dedicated. You don't have to be born with it. I truly believe that. I've transformed the most anti-sales people into beasts. And I've done it enough now to where maybe before I thought you had to have the natural talent. Now I know for a fact you don't need it just because of the people that I've helped and developed. And it's been that many now. I've had thousands of students over the years at this point. And when we're talking just courses, I've sold probably tens of thousands at this point, the digital courses. But actual students in my coaching program, I think we're at a couple thousand at this point. So at the very bare minimum, take that quiz and find out what your archetype is, because then you can at least identify where you're at and what you need to improve upon, and it'll help you, right? But other than that, the sales game to me can be conquered by anybody who believes enough. And it's always going to be one of the highest paid careers on the planet. All right. Anything else I can do for you guys, let me know. Subscribe, thumbs up. We'll see you.